Hello, and welcome to Point of View, where we give students a place to listen, learn, and lean in. I'm your host, Avery, and today we will be discussing the mysterious unsolved case of Dorothy Jane Scott. Before I start, I'd like to give a trigger warning. In this episode, there are topics that may be sensitive to listeners. Topics include themes of stalking, kidnapping, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. The 1980s was one of the darkest ages for American crime. Upwards of 23,000 homicides a year with handguns and assault rifles were always just a car's ride away for the average citizen. Police and authorities had less tools to catch criminals and less knowledge about cases similar to the one that we will be discussing today. Keep this information in mind while we discuss the case of Dorothy Jane Scott, as it provides valuable context for the unfortunate events that took place and why this crime has stayed unsolved. Dorothy Jane Scott was born on April 23, 1948 in Anaheim, California, to two lovely parents, Jacob and Vera Scott. She was a 32-year-old single mom with a 4-year-old son named Sean Scott. She was a caring woman devoted to a quiet Christian life. She did not take any drugs or drink any alcohol, and most of the time her peers said she either stayed at home, church, or at work. Despite her Christian life, she worked 2 jobs as a secretary at Custom John's Head Shop and Swingers Psych Shop, which sold all sorts of items such as lava lamps, blacklight posters, and other hippie-related merchandise. However, a few months prior to May 28, 1980, she had been receiving phone calls from a mystery caller claiming he was watching her and he knew her day-to-day schedule. This mystery caller went as far as leaving a dead rose on her windshield after calling her and telling her to exit her home as he had something to show her. "Okay, now you're going to come my way, and when I get you alone, I will cut you up into bits so no one will ever find you," is one of the things that he told her on the phone one time, which shows the level of harassment that she had been facing. Her mother claimed that this was not any sort of ex-boyfriend or individual that she knew, and that it seemed to be strange how fixated the stalker was on her. Dorothy, of course, freaked out by this. She told her family and friends about the calls and messages she had been receiving. It was then when they urged her to tell the authorities. Once she did notify the police, they unfortunately did not do anything about it because there seemed to not be any accurate evidence, and there were no suspects that they could talk to because even she had no idea who this could be. The stalking got worse as he became able to watch her, follow her, see her movements, clothes, and even location, but strangely he never appeared to be spotted near or by her by anyone involved in her daily life. Dorothy became extremely paranoid to the point where she considered buying herself a handgun just in case anything were to happen, and even ended up taking karate lessons. Even though she began to prepare herself, unfortunately, that wasn't enough to keep her away from the harm of this mystery stalker. Everything went wrong on the night of May 20th, 1980. Dorothy was attending an employee meeting at Swingers Psych Shop. As they were discussing new products and business strategies, Dorothy noticed that her coworker, Conrad Bostrom, looked ill. He had complained about being in pain all day, and there was a large red sore on his arm. Being the kind soul that she was, she decided to drive him to the hospital. Conrad, Dorothy, and her friend Pam Head got into Dorothy's Toyota station wagon and left for the hospital. On the way there, Scott made a quick stop at her parents' house to check on her son, and while she was there, she changed her red scarf to a more woolen black one. Shortly after her arrival at the emergency room at UC Irvine Medical Center, doctors found that Bostrom had been bitten by a black widow spider. While Bostrom was being treated, Dorothy and Pam patiently waited in the emergency room until his discharge at 11 p.m. With the night growing late and Conrad being tired from his treatment, Dorothy offered to bring her car around to drive her friends home and left the hospital alone to find her car while the others stayed inside near the exit. It appeared that all was well. There was no reason to suspect anything else. Her friends waited longer and longer inside the hospital, but as several minutes passed, there was no sign of Dorothy. Concerned, Pam and Conrad went outside to look for her, only to find her station wagon speeding towards them, rushing straight out of the hospital. They tried to signal for her, but the car blew past them, her high beams blinding the duo as the car swerved out of the hospital. They could not see who was behind the wheel or know where she was going. Pam and Conrad figured that she had an emergency, but after hours of silence, they grew more and more concerned for their friend, reporting her as missing several hours later. The next day, a mere 10 miles from the emergency center, police were dispatched only to find Dorothy's white Toyota station wagon engulfed in flames. No sign of the single mother anywhere. After a lengthy investigation, police learned from Dorothy's distraught parents of the stalker who had been pestering them, and a concerning detail related to him. Hours after her disappearance, that same stalker called her parents, leaving a strikingly descriptive phone call of her daily routine, right down to the fact that she had changed her scarf. One long hellish week after she was reported missing, the stalker called once more, offering only a single question. "Are you related to Dorothy Jane Scott? Well, I've got her." Sending the family into a panic, they tried to get into contact with their child, her psychotic stalker calling them day in and day out for 4 years every Wednesday afternoon, bringing another wave of torture for her parents with every dial. Police were rendered useless, unable to track down the man and unable to find any trace of Dorothy, halting this case to a violent, tragic checkmate. Unfortunately, there is no happy ending to this gruesome story. She wasn't found for nearly 5 years after her disappearance. Her bones found on the side of the road by a construction worker, buried alongside canine remains. The bones were identified as hers days after, giving her poor family some sense of closure, but even then, they were not given peace. The caller who was hell-bent on torturing them had been radio silent for going on 3 months, seemingly finally done with driving them mad, but after the remains of her body were found, the calls began again. Police installed a voice recorder on their line to try and catch his voice, but he never stayed on the line long enough to be identified. Unfortunately, that's where the case runs cold. As in the 40 years since the murder of Dorothy Jane Scott, there has been no person charged with her murder or kidnapping, and the caller was never identified. It now lies in the back of some police precinct, gathering dust until one day, God willing, somebody cracks the case. We really must stress that this podcast had no intent to disrespect the victim nor family of this awful tragedy. We intend on shedding light and awareness on this horrifying case, not glamorize or idealize it. Point of View offers our deepest condolences to those wounded by these events. This concludes this culture shock. Thank you so much for listening. For a transcript of this episode, head to the Point of View tab on our website, nhsmessenger.org, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at NHS Point of View. I have been Avery, and this has been Point of View.